Hello, everybody. Welcome to another KMU Live podcast. I'm your host, Ricky Tabruggi, and joining me again this week is Derek Elliford. How's everything going, Derek?
Pretty good, man. We've been getting a lot of rain,
Me too.
a lot of wind. Other than that, home sweet home.
Yeah. It was raining earlier today. It hadn't been doing nothing since probably mid afternoon, but we're talking about some more storms tonight, maybe.
Wow. Well,
We'll
you have a
see.
special, real quick before we get started. We will have this going across the screen a little bit tonight. Ricky does have open heart surgery in a couple of
Yeah.
weeks, so
Yeah.
you can throw a few bucks in there to help him stay afloat during his long recovery. That will be awesome. And then also
15
tonight,
days.
15 days until they're going to crack
Yeah.
your chest, man. That's going to be scary.
Right.
This not that is it? Yeah, is it live? Oh, there we go. So this case was local-ish to me. Hooker's not far from where I'm sitting right now. I think 30 miles probably. Um, I had saw that she was missing. I had saw that she had been found deceased, and then I I had heard like a few rumors and stuff that maybe there was more to the story, but I hadn't seen anything like more than just like a Facebook comment or like a private message. But then 2 weeks ago, somebody had sent me a private message linking me to a YouTube channel called Joe Schmo, where he had talked about the London Valdez case, and then since then he has had some of her family and friends on his podcast. You've checked that out. Go. We have 19 people watching. I'm sure that's going to go up. Share the
Cool.
show, and we're going to bring these
Cool.
guests on here in just a minute. Ricky, kind of catch your audience. Like, you have a few guests on tonight. What's going on with this case as far as what you've watched via Joe Schmo and just what you've heard through your networks?
Just from watching his show, I mean, they've released the preliminary autopsy report, and we'll get into that with our guests here in a little bit. But London had gone missing back in June, and was eventually found deceased. She was at a hotel with a couple of adult males, and London was only 16, and she she was located deceased, sadly. And just there's some folks that need to be held accountable for that. And I mean, it wasn't foul play by any means, but there's some folks that need to be held accountable, and we'll get into all that with the guests here in a little bit. A lot to cover. So, yeah, we're actually going to have London Valdez's mom, Brittany Valdez, and her aunt, Rochelle Conway, on here in a little bit. They're going to join us, and we'll go into depth on London's case and talk about that.
Yeah, they're going to join us here in just a few moments. Actually, we're going to go ahead and bring them up. We got a lot of people pouring in here. We're going to allow these ladies to speak their truth and tell you the way things that they have seen it. Just like we do anytime we have a guest on, this is going to be their opinion, and we're going to allow them a safe space to give their opinion. Welcome to the show, Brittany and Rochelle. How you doing?
Good. Thank you for having us.
No problem. Let me go ahead and make
Thanks
sure
for
our
joining
comments
us.
are going to be going across our screen tonight so we can actually see them. Christopher Under's here, Ellen Dotson's here, and Joe Schmo in the house for moral support. Awesome.
Oh, cool. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah. So, Brittany, you are London's mom, correct? Like, I guess we can just start there.
Yeah, I'm London's mom.
Okay. How does is London from the Hooker area? How does London end up in the Hooker area? Like to begin, like how does she end up there?
My mom lives there, and so she was with my mom, and I grew up there. I just but I'm living in Ponca City right now, working, going to school.
Okay, so she goes missing on June 5th. Like, walk us through. I guess just walk us through June 5th, like, because I know that she was found a couple days later, but like, walk us through how you find out that she's unaccounted for. Has this been the first time she's been unaccounted for? Like, how worried were you as far as like that something this drastic could have happened? Walk us through June 5th as far as finding out that she, nobody's seen her for a while.
Okay, yeah. So on June 5th, she left my mom's house around 11 a.m. And sent my mom a text after she had left that she would be back. Jose had picked her up, and they had went to Hardesty and visited one of his friends. And London had mentioned that she had seen one of Jose's friends, Braden, on a snap, and that she thought he was cute. And so he said, "Hey, do you want to go hang out with my friend Braden?" And she was like, yeah. So they were off. We'd been texting her, you know, you need to come home. And she kept saying, I'll be home. I'm going to come home. I'll be home at midnight. I'll be home at this time. And so she didn't come home, and that really kind of worried us in the first place, but she was still texting. So we knew at that point, like, she was still communicating with us, but it just seemed different this time. Like, it just seemed, we were like more concerned because it's not like London to stay gone all night. Now she might show up late, and might show up, you know, late in the night, like midnight, 1 o'clock, whatever. But she always came home. Even if she knew she was going to be in trouble, she would come home. And so that was already kind of concerning. But she, like I said, she was still communicating. And then, so she had been snapping her sister. This whole time we're telling her, Lennon, you need to come home. She's like, I'm coming home. I'm on my way home. And so, you know, we kind of thought, you know, maybe she did just, you know, run away, but we were still really concerned the fact that she hadn't came home. So at this moment, our minds weren't thinking that she was already, you know, was gonna end up in the situation she was in. So we were still hoping, you know, she was just being rebellious. She's gonna come home. And so on Friday, when she hadn't come home on the 6th, but she was still telling us, you know, we decided, you know, if she's not home by tomorrow morning, we're going to call the cops. And, you know, I wish we wouldn't have waited that long, but honestly, like, we never expected this. Like, we were just really thinking she was going to come home. So, because the way she left, it was like she was going to come home. Like, so the last communication she had was with her sister at 9 o'clock on Saturday in the morning. And her sister said, you need to come home. And she said, okay, I am today. And that was the last anyone had heard from her. And so my mom had called the police that day and let them know. I think she kind of even let them know on Friday what was going on, but it wasn't necessarily reported, you know, just kind of, you know, my mom kept in pretty good contact with the Hooker police if something was wrong. So she, you know, just let them know, like, this is going on. And then Saturday is when she actually, like, reported it. We were like, we got to call this in today. And so she called. So we knew something was really wrong after we stopped hearing from her at 9 o'clock, her sister. Now, if anybody was going to hear from her, it was going to be her sister. And so that was really concerning, that she was not communicating with her. So my mom turned it in, and by Sunday, both of the guys showed up to my mom's house. And this is what, by Sunday. And they were banging on the door. And so my stepdad came out, and there was Jose there, and he was demanding money, saying that London needed to pay to fix his dad's truck. He wanted $5,000, $5,000 exactly. And that he wanted his red hoodie back. And Braden's sitting in the car.
It's actually Monday.
That was Monday. Well, they came over. Okay. So Sunday they came over, but nobody was home. And then Monday, this is when this happened. That's right. Mm-hmm. So this is Monday. And then, all that happened. He came banging on the door. Stepdad came outside, and he's demanding that London came outside, and Jose's just like upset, just super upset. Braden's in the car. Sorry, I got thrown off. My mom calls the police, and they don't know that my mom's called the police. So Robbie Wayman and Scott Hedrick show up, and they both show up. Okay. And so they're taking a report, and they're asking him, you know, you guys were the last one seen with him. And they tell them at this time that Jose tells them, the last person we saw her with was at the Liberal pool with a white guy. And then Braden says, we dropped her off at the Liberal pool with a Mexican guy. So that's kind of where the first, like, runaway posters came from, where we had the information that London was last seen in Liberal. And so, did I say it wrong?
Mm-mm.
Oh,
no.
I just want, just real quick. So, so she's 16. So when you say the guys she was with were older, like I really don't. Does this mean that they're like in their early mid 20s or like 30s or 40s? What does older mean in the context of this situation?
Brandon's 19 and Jose's 20.
Okay. So I was just curious because like it could mean different things. So how well did she know one or both or either of these guys that she was last seen with?
I guess like she had contact with Jose before, but not. I guess like he's picked her up before. Like I said, London's left before, but she's never stayed gone. So we kind of just thought that's kind of the situation that she was in, but we didn't know Jose, and we didn't know who was picking her up at the time, and so at the times before. So she's known him like maybe once or twice before that, maybe more. But like I said, like we don't know how many times like he's been the one to pick her up. This is the first time we've been able to get like a last name and everything like that. So
okay, but it wasn't like a situation where like she met him like on an app or something that day, and like there had been a meeting prior to that day, at least one. You said,
yeah.
For Jose,
okay, and then
yeah, Braden, that was his first day meeting London.
Yeah, you had said that. So whenever you say that eventually the communication stopped, like let's say like there was like 20 total communications from her leaving that last time and then from it stopping, what was the vibe of like the last 5 times she communicated with anybody? Like what was her vibe like as far as like, was she letting anybody know, hey, I'm in trouble, or was she acting scared? Like, I guess like what was her last communications like to her family and friends?
No, it was like she was in a good mood. Like from the sounds of it, like she was talking to her sister and said that she'd met a cute guy, and that was kind of like one of the last conversations that they had. And then she said, you need to come home, and she said, I'm coming home today. And her sister said, be careful, and that was it. And London said, I will, and that was the last message.
Okay, so that's the last. What is the time frame between the last communication and then the guys showing up wanting the $5,000 in the red hoodie? Like, what kind of time breakdown is it between last communication and them showing up and like demanding that stuff?
So the last communication was at 9 a.m. and we didn't hear from her. And so they, according to Jose, he showed up on Sunday and nobody was home. And then they showed up on Monday. So there was a whole day and a half that went by. I can't verify if he actually came over on that Sunday, but that's what he says.
Okay. So it's, and I had told you that there might be some people watching this that are pulling their hair out because I'm sure you have said some of this stuff. I wanted to learn everything from both of you. So like I'm learning along with maybe people who don't know anything.
Can I real quick address the comment over here real quick?
Yeah, go ahead, Rick.
Somebody had commented, I got to run back up the screen here a little bit. Was commented, what makes me say it wasn't foul play when adults provided underage people with controlled substance? That is foul play. I meant I meant no foul play in terms of a weapon was not used, like a gun, knife, stuff like that. Right. That's what I meant in terms of no foul play. Yes. Meth can be considered foul play and lethal doses. Yes.
Yeah. I knew what you were saying, man. I saw the comment, but I knew what you were saying.
I just wanted to clarify that.
So, like, in a sense, like she goes this, and it's the guys' names are Jose and Braden. They kind of out themselves as being like maybe suspicious in the I guess at what point? Because like you all knew that she was with this Jose guy, and it wasn't like a situation where you're like, we got to save her. You're like, whatever, like she'll be back. At what point, like, does the suspicion from your camp go on these two dudes? And like, at what, I guess, like, what made you decide to be like, these two guys are suspect right now?
Jose. Like, honestly, it was Jose. Besides the way that they were acting on Tuesday, my mom called me, and because she had called the Beaver County Sheriff Deputy, Jason Johnston, and he had told her and she reported that the last person that London was seen with was Jose, and because she knew that he was from Beaver. And so and then later on, he had said that he had, okay, so Jose came over on that Sunday and Braden was there. That's how Braden came in the picture, or Monday, is he was in the car with Jose, but he looked they said he looked like he was going to be sick. So that's what made them get him out of the car, which was Jose's dad's red Subaru, by the way. I'd like to point that out. Just remember that. So that's how Braden kind of got pulled into the thing with Jose. So when my mom talked to the deputy sheriff on that Tuesday, she let them know, like, hey, London was last seen with these guys from Beaver, and we just wanted to report that. And then Johnson says, oh, I picked up Braden walking down the road that night, or on the dirt road that night. And we were like, oh, and he says, yeah, he told me he high centered the truck and he was really inebriated. He couldn't tell up from down and he didn't have a license, but I just went ahead and took him home. Took him to his dad's house. And we're like, okay, that's suspicious. So I call right away when my mom tells me that. I was like, give me Jose's number, because she got Jose's number that night while we were there. Why they were there. And so I call him and he didn't answer at first, but I sent him a text and I was like, this is London's mom. You need to call me back ASAP. So he calls me right back and I'm like, where's London? I know she was last seen with you. And he's like, you guys are tripping. She's going to be right back. You guys are going to look stupid, because he had seen the runaway posters by this point. And he did not like that I'd put their names on there last seen with. So that made him start kind of freaking out. So that's why he called me. And he's like, you guys are going to regret putting my name on there. You guys are going to look stupid. She's coming back. She's coming back. And he hung up on me. And so the next morning around 7 a.m., I get a phone call from Jose. And I answer it and he says, I want to talk to the cops. He's like, I think something bad has happened to London. And I, of course, right away, I'm like, what, So he kind of lets me know at this point that this is from him. I recorded the phone call. So he calls and he says that they were in Woodward together and they left and they went to a hotel in Guyman. And in Guyman, he got out and got in with some friends, and that Braden got out and he drove Jose's dad's red Subaru. And and then he said that Braden was supposed to take London home and go drop off his dad's car. And he said that's the last he had ever heard from him. And so he said that that Braden had called him around 6:30 and was talking about a high-speed chase and that there was agents surrounding the car. And Jose said, I told him to get out and lock the doors and just stand there. And you can hear me say, why did you tell him to do that? Is there something in the car that you didn't want him to see? No, I just wanted him to get out if there was the police. He was talking over himself in circles. I mean, it just seemed like something was wrong. And so he says something about, he said he was on Grandpa's land. And I said, were you able to hear London in the background? And he said, no, I couldn't hear anything. It was quiet. And so he also informs me that the next day the truck was pulled out. Like they went back, Braden and his brothers went back to go pull out the truck. And he made sure to let me know that he said all the doors were open and it was cleaned out. And whenever they got there is what he was told. And so they pulled the truck out. And there's been several different stories about who's helped pull the truck out. Who all has it been so far?
So the first one was Braden, Zach, and Jose's brother.
Yeah.
And then the other one was
Braden's dad.
Braden's dad helped. And then there was this speculation that Braden's mom and her boyfriend helped. And then there's speculation that Grandpa has a tow truck company. And it's just been everybody and their dog has been out there to pull this truck out in somebody's story.
And every time he tells the story of what happened, it's different. So it's kind of hard to keep up with like all the lies that have been told throughout this whole thing, even to the police. Like, it's confusing. So that's Jose's story. Like, and so I asked him, I said, where were you guys Thursday? He said, we stayed the night at Braden's dad's house. And so I talked to Braden's dad, and he let me know that they were there. He said, when I was pulling up from work, Jose was leaving, and then Braden and London were there by themselves until about 9:30 when he went to go hang out with some of his friends. Sorry, I've been a little sick.
You're good.
And so he says he comes back in the late in the middle of the night, and everybody's gone.
And this is Leo. This is Braden's dad that's saying this.
Yeah, Braden's dad. And so supposedly they went to Woodward, to Braden's mom's house. And that's where they were Friday night. And that's where they left from on Saturday morning, which we know because there's video proof of them at a gas station.
An eyewitness that was at Braden's mom's house reported it too.
Yeah.
That they showed up there Friday night.
Yeah. And so we know that they were there, and that's the track of that. Now, when Jose first told me this story, he didn't mention that he was in his mom's black 4-door car. I think it was a Toyota. It was Toyota. So this whole time I'm thinking that they're driving the red Subaru. He never had mentioned that mom's car at all. But there was a last snap picture that London had sent from a back seat with 2 guys in the front. And one's Braden, the other one's questionable. There's been lots of speculation about who that has been too. But you can see on the steering wheel a Toyota emblem on there. And so we zoomed in. I'm like, that's not a Subaru. I was like, I was checking for every detail. And that's how we found out he was driving his mom's Toyota at first. So at some point between Woodward and Guyman, if that even happened, they went to Beaver and traded cars. So they got out of the black 4-door car and got into his dad's red Subaru. His dad was in Mexico at the time. And so this is where Jose said they drove to Guyman and separated at that point. And that, that was the last he knew. So that's kind of the rundown. Do you want to add anything in there that maybe my mind forgot? Because sometimes that happens.
Well, when Brittany was talking to Jose on the phone, he very much thought it necessary to let Brittany know that Braden was high out of his mind.
Oh, yeah.
When he's making these extravagant phone calls, not only is he calling Jose, but he's messaging his mom. All these things about, if you never see me again, it's because the police are chasing me. And Brittany's like, why is he saying this stuff? And Jose says, because he's on a sick one. And she's like, well, what does that mean? What is a sick one? And he said it's like a drug trip. He's tripping on drugs, having a bad trip. And so, when Jose's like, you can tell that he's like nervous in this video, or this recording, like he's telling the story, he's nervous because I do think at some point he didn't genuinely know what had happened to London. Like maybe he was also lied to a certain degree, but you can tell that he's also more concerned about his dad's truck getting fixed so he doesn't get in trouble too.
But my speculation is that it was just really odd that he was asking specifically for $5,000 for damage for his dad's car on a Sunday, which, he didn't take it to a mechanic, and because he came the day before. There was hardly any damage on the car because the police and my mom had checked out the car. So my speculation is that money was needed for something else.
So typically, I don't like speculation, but I'm going to ask you to speculate just because, I feel like if people are hearing this story for the first time, they might be confused. So based on everything you've told us, if you could kind of let us know what London's cause of death was and what your theory is of how her death was not an accident, how her death was something that was either malicious or or somebody caused her death. And this is, again, we'll start this with, this is a speculation part of the show. What is your theory as far as how London died that day?
Sorry, we were having problems with the computer. My theory on how London died. My theory on how London died is that when they were driving back from Guyman, either they were. So there's two different stories there, but I'm just gonna start with the car then, because Braden says one thing about where they were and Jose says another thing about where they were. So we're just gonna go out to where the truck was high centered, right? I think that where Braden admitted that he jumped out of the car because he thought they were being chased by the police. He took a bag of meth, and because he was afraid he was going to get in trouble for being dumb. Those were his words to me. And that he went out and laid in the field and stuff. Well, his mom says that she was on the phone with him up until that point, and that the last thing she heard was him get out and tell her that he loved her. And she said she was supposed to get out and run, and run and hide and then come back, or just stay in the car. But my theory is that London also was told to take some meth, and I think she swallowed it.
Well, Braden said out of his own mouth or Braden and Braden's mom said out of their mouths that Braden ate the meth. So it was reported by them that he swallowed the meth so that he didn't get in trouble.
Yeah.
Wow.
So that part is not speculation. So that was from them.
And then London died less than a mile down the road.
Okay, so again, like this is I'm just trying to paint it all together. So say that your theory is true. We're not really talking about like, and again, this isn't even a declaration that these two guys are great guys, but it wasn't a situation where it was like, it was probably, maybe her death is more out of stupidity. Like somebody who was thinking would know that that's a bad idea to ingest a large amount of any kind of narcotic. Do you think it's more of a death by misadventure, like death by people? Again, like, not saying that she should have been in that situation. None of that. I'm just saying, do you see it as like a homicide or more of an accidental death, basically? But again, like with heavy consequences, because it's a child. I'm not trying to dismiss this but what are your thoughts? Do you think it's more of a malicious homicide or more of a tragic accident that somebody's going to have to pay for, basically?
I would consider, I don't think that he did it to kill her, but I think that honestly, at 19 years old, I think that you should probably, like you said, know if you hand a 16-year-old child a large amount of meth and then leave her there and abandon her there. By the way, the cell phone's a whole nother thing. She didn't have her cell phone.
And he knew that.
And she's out there in the country. I mean, you just handed off a 16-year-old a large amount of meth and left her there with no water, no way to get to anywhere. I can't even tell you. If you look at her shoe prints, she didn't run, she walked. I can't forgot what I was about to say, but she walked from there and she didn't have any water. I kind of just think that maybe she was trying to find a way, like, to get somewhere. Maybe he left her in there. You know, that's the questions that we're trying to find out, is like what really happened there. Like, but I'm pretty certain she was asked to swallow some to try to help keep from getting in trouble.
I would like to add something there, if you're okay with that. So if we're talking about in the eyes of the law, and so I'm in law school, and Oklahoma has laws that protect minors, and the law says anybody under the age of 18 years old is a minor. Any adult over the age of 18 that provides a minor with a substance that results in their death could be charged up to first-degree murder with or without intent. And that's the law. Like, that's the law. That's not our speculation. That's not whether or not he meant to. That's not whether or not he was being stupid or she was being stupid. You know, if he used or gave her or sold her or provided her a space to use, he is responsible as somebody over the age of 18 according to the Oklahoma law.
Well, I think that a lot of us are learning with the Matthew Perry case. They're getting ready to throw that ketamine queen in jail, and she's not.
Yeah.
And Matthew, but you're right. Like say all that stuff happened. It's disgusting, and then you add on that she's a child. It's even more disgusting. I'm just trying to wrap my head around, like, was this somebody like we're trying to get rid of this person tonight, or so my next question is, so say that your theory is correct. What do you feel is stopping? What do you feel is bottlenecking justice? Like, do you feel like it's lack of police resources, or do you feel like it is potentially like people are not solving it on purpose? Like, I guess what are your, and again, you can say this is a theory, but I guess in your opinion, why? Because I use a lot of AI to do research, and when I looked into this, AI was just like, look, there's a lot of comments, there's a lot of posts, but there's nothing. If you do end up watching
our last episode with Joe Schmo, our whole episode is based on a lot of research that I've done on AI.
So, but AI will tell you, Grok or whatever will tell you, like, there's nothing quote unquote official saying that London Valdez's death is quote unquote suspicious, but based on public outcry and comments, that yes, it probably is. I guess from that, like, definition of what's going on, what is, in your opinion, is stopping this from being out on Front Street? They're like, hey, this is a serious issue, we got to fix it,
Well, OSBI is involved. They do have an active, so he does, they only get involved when there is suspicious deaths. So I think their question is still, they're trying to figure out exactly what happened before and what happened after. I think there's still questions about in that 2.5 hours if that Braden was unaccounted for, because at 6:30 he was making these phone calls saying he was being chased by the police, but it was 9 o'clock when he was picked up by the police. So there's 2.5 hours of time missing. Where he says he's laying in a field, but there's questions about whether he knew she was dead or not. So they're kind of trying to figure that out. I think they're also trying to figure out, where did it come from? Those kind of things, like not
Here's
even
my
just
question.
from them, but to them from,
A question I have about law enforcement would be, so it's that night that all that goes down and they pick this kid up and, they find him walking on a dirt road. Did the officer and or the dispatch, any police that night, did they know that London was also unaccounted for, or was that strictly on this Braden kid to relay that to the officer that found him? Hey, I was out here with somebody else and I don't know where she is. Like, I guess, like, at what point did it become where the police can't really deny that they quote, like, when did the police know that London was out there unaccounted for? When did they find out, I guess?
So according to Braden, he says that he told the police that he had a friend back there. And that may be true, but from what we've been told Johnson has said is that they've dealt with Braden before, and that they didn't know, he had so many stories, they didn't know what one was true. So he just took him, he called his dad, told him to come get Braden. Braden's dad told him he had been drinking, so Johnson just went and dropped him off at home. Now, as far as that's it. Even after my mom had called and let him know that Braden was missing, as far as nobody went out there. Where her body was found is open. There's no way, if you don't have to be a detective to know where she was laying at. Like, when I saw where she was at, I was shocked. I thought she'd be in some bushes, hiding behind some tree, something. No, right in a T, like this, right in front of the road, right down the road from where that was. But even then, Hooker chief of police wasn't doing anything. He really thought she was a runaway, and, like, to the point where he mocked me for being a mental health worker and telling me I need to quit being negative, and was like, and you're in school for this? And he said, you need to calm down, you're acting like she's dead already. And this was the night before her body was found.
Wow.
Like, he was completely biased against London already, because they had dealt with her. One of the officers that did the report that night said, God, I can't wait till this kid turns 18. Like, they already had their mind up. They were not thinking, my mom heart before I'm a mental health professional, I'm a mom. And I knew that her behavior was not like this. It was not like her. And I knew in my heart something was wrong. And I was trying to tell him that, and he wouldn't listen. He even yelled at my mom. Like, it was the most unprofessional thing I've ever seen. But there were no efforts. Texas County didn't put any missing persons flyer out. It was all Kansas and the community and the people that supported her that were able to help spread this word around.
And again,
you guys, I mean, Ricky really, like, I reached out to Ricky because, you know, I had actually had, you know, correspondence with Ricky months before that with my own son who had ran away, and he helped me so much. And so I immediately reached out to Ricky because at that time, you know, Liberal had done so much in helping put the word out about London, even though it wasn't even their jurisdiction. She was a child, and they just felt it in their heart that there needed to be word. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, I reached out to Ricky, and he contacted whoever he needed to contact and verified information. And we had a poster, you know, and his poster is what helped get this whole thing started for us. Like, it was the first actual official poster. Like, everything. Well,
my aunt and us had made some flyers that's what I meant, but like online. Yeah, like it was the first one.
Yeah.
But as far as Jose wanting to talk to the police, while you're talking about the police efforts, he wanted to talk to the police, right? So he went to the Beaver Police, and they told him that he had to talk to Scott Hedrick. And so he tries to call Scott Hedrick. Scott Hedrick doesn't answer the phone. So he calls me back, and he's like, I tried to call the police. They're telling me I have to talk to Scott Hedrick. I'm going down there right now. And so I get a hold of my mom, and I'm like, hey, Jose wants to talk to Scott, the Hooker police chief. And so she had his number, of course. And so she called him on a 3-way. So Hedrick answers, and we're like, hey, we have Jose on the line. Like, he wants to talk to you. And he says, oh no, we are not doing this. Jose, you can hang up and call me back yourself. So we hang up, and Jose tries to call him back, and he sends him a voicemail. So at this point, I'm like, I'm driving down there. I'm 5 hours away. I'm driving down there. I said, Jose, meet me there. He met me there. He met me in Hooker. And he was in his mom's black car. So he met me in Hooker, and we tried to call Scott. He tried to call Scott Hedrick. Scott Hedrick sent him to voicemail. Again, my mom tried to call Scott Hedrick. He sent her to voicemail. And so she sends him a text, and she's like, Scott, we have Jose here, and he wants to talk to you. So he's like, I'll send another police officer, Bubba G. And so we're like, okay. So we get down there, but he pulls up. And this is the night that he's like yelling at us and telling me I'm being negative and acting like she's dead already and just super hateful. So he takes Jose in there with his mom, and they do their interview. And I told him he was going to meet me after, but it didn't end until 11 p.m. And so I was like, I'll meet you at 8 a.m. in the morning. So I went in there at 8 a.m. This is the day she was found, and played the recording that I had just to try to show him. But I think after he talked to Jose, he realized something was actually wrong, and London wasn't just a runaway. It was very dismissed.
So, well, the more I'm hearing,
the simple fact that that Jason Johnson, the deputy sheriff from Beaver County, picked up Braden on that same dirt road on Saturday night at 9 p.m. and knew exactly where he picked Braden up, and then spoke to Brittany's mom 2 days later and verified that London was supposed to be with him, and still never went back to that area to even look after Braden allegedly told him, my friend's back there, and I wrecked the car. Like, at the very minimum, he could have thought maybe the friend was hurt in a car accident. You know what I mean? Like, he didn't know how bad this car wreck was. He never even went back to look at it. So for 5 days, from Saturday until the 12th, from the 7th until the 12th, nobody ever went back out to that scene other than whomever was the people that went and removed the car from being high-centered or wrecked in the mud. And we still don't have a straight story on who they were. But the fact that her body was less than 3/4 of a mile down the road from that area, and there's really only one way in and one way out, it's a very rural country, like farmer's entrance to his farmland.
I wish I had a picture right now so I could show you how open she was. Like, I don't understand how nobody saw her.
So let me ask you this. It might be a dark question. This is reminding me very much of Elkhart, Kansas, early 70s, a 14-year-old Suzanne Johnson. She went missing for 11 days. They all said she was a runaway. Her parents swore to God she wasn't. They find her body. But the thing that it's kind of a dark question, but they found her body 11 days later, but they knew she died the day she went missing because of the contents of her stomach. Do they know that 5-day period? Facts are facts. Things happen when people pass away. Do the coroner do they have a pretty good idea of what time she actually passed away and how long she supposedly sat out there for quote unquote 5 days?
So they told us that they don't do estimated time of death anymore. They just count it as the day that she's found.
And that's
5 days later.
That's the Oklahoma medical examiner that told us that out of her own mouth. They do not do estimated times of death anymore.
But she did try to tell me, I asked if the body could have been moved. And she said, at first she said, no, there's no way with the decomp. And then I said, with the heat and everything, she said, well, it would have had to been moved out there by Monday. So I'm like, but it could have been moved, which I'm kind of suspicious of because that's the day that I put everybody's name on the internet and called everybody out by name. So I can't help but wonder if that freaked them out and they didn't want to be found with her.
Because Braden was adamant to Jose that he was on his grandpa's land. Well, his grandpa's land's on the opposite side of Forgan of where London's body was found.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as far as Oklahoma not doing a time of death, have you all looked into that other than just her word for it? Or is that actually true? Oklahoma is no longer interested in time of death?
What made us start asking about
here's an interesting comment from Joe.
Yeah, so that I was literally going to get to that here in a second too, Joe. Thanks.
Yeah.
But the thing that brought us to asking for an estimated time of death is because I was on the phone with multiple attorneys because we were looking into hiring some attorneys for maybe civil purposes afterwards, like after the criminal stuff. And every single one that we talked to said, I need something from the Emmy that gives me an estimated time of death, basically, so that we can show that if Johnson would have went back out there at 9 p.m., London could possibly have been alive or not. We need to know an estimated time of death. These are multiple Oklahoma attorneys. They deal with these things all the time. And then we asked her, and she said, "No, we don't do that."
See,
that's we've never heard that in our life.
Yeah, but I'm like, you can't say it was June 12th when she died, June 7th. Like,
and she was willing to say that the amount of decomp on the ground had to have been, it was at least worth 4 days, because she said if she was moved after death, it had to have been by Monday with the amount of decomp.
Yeah. She said if she would have kept inside or something or rolled up in something, it's possible.
I think, again, to me that just sounds, so it's in Oklahoma, Title 63 S 938, blah blah blah. Certain deaths must be investigated, and the time of death must be, at least estimated. Unattended deaths where no physician is in attendance. That's any death where there's not a doctor to walk in the room and be like, "Yep, that's a dead person."
Yeah,
suspicious,
exactly.
violent, unnatural, found bodies. So to me, again, like, I want to open before I talk real quick. I want to say that, like, I love this country. I love Kansas. I love Oklahoma. I love law enforcement. I'm not a witch hunt type of person, but I will say this. Sometimes in life you will have somebody who has a title or a job and they will just spill poo-poo out of their mouth. But if the internet can tell you that that's false, I think at that point you just have to go to their boss, or you have to go around people like that. And I think when you have small towns, you have situations where most of the times, and this is not a slight against law enforcement, when you're in a small town, you don't really deal with, quote unquote, real crazy crimes very often. So when they do happen, you're ill-equipped to do it. But I think
he knew what
a medical examiner saying that out loud, I would get a second opinion. But go ahead.
Yeah. So here's another connection. Scott used to be the Beaver County sheriff. So, and then,
no, go ahead.
Yeah, so they know each other pretty well. It's just it's a lot of buddy system. Braden's dad used to be a firefighter
for Beaver County
or Forgan.
Which is still Beaver County.
Oh, well, yeah, for Forgan. And then I think he was a correctional officer. So I think the deputy sheriff knew his dad in order for him to like call him and just be like, all right, I'll bring him home, you know. So there's just a lot of like small town buddy stuff. And like you said, I don't think they're trained to deal with a lot of, I mean, they do a lot in the drug trafficking area, but they don't do a lot in like murders or like, you know, heinous crimes. Yeah.
Okay, I want to ask another question. Again, if you don't want to answer a question, you don't have to. But the only reason I ask, there's a method to my madness. I wanted to know if London had ever been in trouble with any kind of illegal substance in her pocket, because me and Ricky have covered so many cases of missing people, suspicious deaths, mostly missing people that we have not found yet. And we get to talking to their family members. And I learned that 6 months ago, 2 months ago, 2 weeks ago, a year ago, they got caught with some illegal substance, and they are now working with, they're a snitch basically. But no, and this is why I want to say this. No, I don't believe anybody out there that is a quote unquote snitch wakes up one day and like, man, I hope I can become. I think you become a quote unquote snitch because they hold your freedom, your children, your everything above your head. And they say, you help us or we're going to ruin you. And then when somebody who's a quote unquote snitch ends up going missing or getting themselves killed, again, this is not me talking bad about the police department. If I was the police department and I was paying somebody to be an informant and they got themselves injured or maimed or killed, it is not in my best interest to super investigate that, because that could blow up me, the police's spot on a lot of things that could potentially be good. So my question is, was she ever in trouble with the law for a substance? And is there any chance that she may have audibly told an officer at one point, I'll get you some information if you let me go?
No, she's never been in trouble for substances, but she's been in trouble because of substances. London liked to drink. And I will admit that London was a drinker, and that was her biggest kryptonite was alcohol. And London was not a meth user. I definitely think it was a case of, like I said, his mom said that he told her he loved her. She's 16. He's a 19-year-old boy. You know what I mean? So I definitely feel like, it was a lot of, trying to maybe be cool, trying to hang in there, trying to, I don't know. But
well, another thing is this, and I had told you before the show started that I might be a little devil's advocate, but I think it's important. So in the Suzanne Johnson case, she was 14. The last guy she was seen with was 21. Me, as a 42-year-old father in 2025, I'm just like, ew, why is a 21-year-old hanging out with a 14-year-old? But when I was 14, my friends that were girls loved hanging out with dudes that were 18, 19, 20, 21. And you could have never told them that there was anything weird or sketchy about it because they were the smartest 14-year-old girl in the world. So I think that when it comes to these situations, you have people who want to paint the person that got, oh, well, she made bad decisions, blah, blah, blah. And then you have people that are like, oh, well, she was a perfect angel. And I think that it's important to say that if she was anything like all other human beings, she was probably somewhere in the middle of that spectrum. And I think that it's easier to I don't know, these things do happen. I think that London's not the only 16-year-old girl as of right now probably sitting and hanging out with a guy that's way too old, and a grown-up person would say that's too old for you, but you could never convince them. So
I did it.
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. So I think it's important to say that though, because again, I think this is a situation where things got really out of hand. And me personally, if your theory is true, I think that somebody should be held accountable. Now, do I think that they deserve the death penalty? No, but somebody should be held accountable. London's story needs to be told, if not for anything, to teach other people to never put anything in your mouth that somebody hands you because the cops are, you know what I mean? So I guess we only have about 10 minutes left in the program, and I kind of want to just let you all tell your whole story. I guess like I asked you earlier to speculate. I want you to more hope and have faith and wish. What do you both want to see the outcome? Because no matter what, say that right now the police go arrest everybody that you think is suspicious and they lock them up, like London is gone, and that sucks. Like like it's very easy to get caught up in vengeance, and retribution is healthy, but at the end of the day, it's all just kind of distractions, in my opinion, to know that this girl, I never met her, but I know a lot of people loved her, and she's not coming back. There will be, if you believe in heaven and all that stuff, you can see her again, but on this plane, on this earth, she's not coming back. What do you both want to see come from this whole situation legally, and I guess as like a full circle picture for people to remember and, dare I say, learn from this situation?
Like I really want to start something called London's Law, where these are more strict, not just for fentanyl, but all substance abuse. I think when fentanyl's mentioned, people seem to care more, but when you say meth, all of a sudden people have some type of perception or judgment, or it kind of and that doesn't make sense to me. And I'm realizing really quickly through not just London's story, but like a lot of other stories that you've told that I've never heard about, that there's people getting away with this. And I feel like there should be stricter laws about that.
For adults who supply illegal substances to minors with or without intent to hurt them, that illegal substance is illegal for anybody, but if you supply it to a minor and it results in her death or his death, like, you should be held to the highest standard of the law at that point. You're an adult, and that's definitely the first part of what we want to see, as even past London's story, for other people that may go through this in the future, to see that other kids can be protected by these laws.
Yeah, like, what is that saying that because she did do this, her life isn't as valuable as somebody else, So I don't think that that's right.
I'll say this.
The other thing that we want to do is we're trying to promote teen rehabs in Oklahoma, because there are 0 rehabs for teens or programs for teens that work with substance abuse problems. And I don't think that that's okay, because I felt like a mom with nowhere to turn. And so that's why London was staying with my mom. She's going to, she liked to drink. Like, the alcohol I felt like she was too convenient down here for her. And so I sent her to Hooker, where they don't do a lot of that, So that was kind of my intention there. But, I really would like to see more help for teens who struggle with that.
Because it has become an epidemic. We do have a lot more teens dealing with alcoholism, and because of the fentanyl rage, and we have the vapes, and they're putting fentanyl in vapes now, and almost every teenager I know probably has a vape in their pocket. That's.
But they're just doing more drugs in general.
Mm-hmm. It's just become more readily available for teens, and they're in the state of Oklahoma has 0.
They're not recognizing it.
They only have mental health facilities, and in order for you to get into one like that, you have to say you want to hurt yourself.
This is a little off topic, but you're talking about something that you're both passionate about, and I think it's good. Why do you think, and just your opinions, and hopefully it's just from your mind, why do you think drugs are such an easy exit off the highway of life? Like, because I'm from Elkhart, Kansas, and I'm not disparaging anybody that chose the drug route. I've never done meth, and I'm only saying that because the only reason I never tried it is because I was just like, that just seems like the easiest path to do in this town. I was like, you just meet the wrong guy at the wrong party, or the wrong chick at the wrong party, give it 6 weeks, and you're in a world of hurt. So when I was offered it at 18, like, I have my birth father has 14 siblings. A lot of them are either dead or in prison from drugs. So I was just like, that just seems like an easy exit. Like, I'll try the next one. Let fill you on a little secret. I'm heavily addicted to sugar and cigarettes and a bunch of other stupid. So just because I didn't choose meth, to me, addiction's addiction. It doesn't matter what flavor it is. What do what do you think the reason that young people, do you think it's because it's the older person's cool, or the idea is cool because of music and movies? Why is it that young people in this part of the country just excuse my language, Ricky, have the balls to do something as crazy as doing a narcotic at a young age?
I think it's glorified these days. I think it's kind of it's been normalized among kids. Like, I mean, there's so many that vape now. I mean, and I work a lot with kids. Like, I'm a children's counselor, and so I worked with teenagers, and there's so many that where it's cool to do these things, whether it's popping pills, Adderalls, Xanaxes, and then of course, like, Coke's a new thing, I guess. Like, I'd never realized that was such a popular. I've never done drugs. I've never been in trouble or anything like that. But I'm learning in this generation what's popular. And, I just think that it is more available. I think that it's become more normalized. When I was younger, you didn't see a lot of people. I remember someone getting caught smoking weed one time, and we were just like, oh, like, oh my gosh, and that's so normal today to be smoking weed or having a dab pen or something. So I do think it's just more acceptable these days, and it's kind of turned it into an epidemic.
Yeah, I think what I've learned doing this show, we do cold cases every week, and then our middle segment is always like missing and endangered teens, and basically a lot of them are, which is a dirty word in this industry, are runaway, because the second you say runaway, people, police, and it's not their fault. They're just like, oh, a repeated runner, we're not going to worry about that person. They're always doing the boy that cried wolf, basically. But what I've learned is I think it's really, 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 really tough being a kid. And I think that even under the best circumstances, say you got two parents that love you to death like crazy and everybody's rooting for you, I think even then it's hard to be a kid. And so if you tack on any kind of soul taxing things, like, it becomes even harder to be a kid. I think that, I don't know, maybe I'm speaking a little bit from, like, it's just pretty wild in our country right now with things that are going on. Just a lot of people, passing away under weird, I think it's really on us to love our kids as much as possible. Like, we have to try to love it out of them. I don't think that, the DARE program, I signed up for it. I signed that contract. I lied a little bit to Officer Hill, rest in peace. He passed away a couple years ago. But that being said, like, in all reality, like, you can kind of look at, like, how the DARE program was kind of a really good way to bring a bunch of narcotics into a classroom and show children what they look like and be like, don't do these exact narcotics. This is what crack looks like.
Program now that's even more scary than the DARE program.
So to me, like, it's just a scary time to be a kid, and I think I'm definitely Monday morning quarterbacking here, but I obviously you have your theories, and I think that there's definitely a lot of explaining to do with what happened to London that night. I don't think that young girls
there's so much more.
Yeah, I don't think that young girls just fall over and pass away, well, I don't know. It makes me sad, that
yeah, it was acute meth toxicity, which acute means she was given a large amount in a short amount of time. So there's not a large.
That's in the autopsy, right? Like, that's in the autopsy.
That's specific
with hyperthermia.
Wow.
Yeah. So I mean, there wasn't a long time. So if they really did leave from that hotel in Guyman, it had to have been within that time frame, regardless. And even if she didn't ingest it, say she smoked it, she would have had to have smoked and smoked and smoked and smoked for a long time. For London not being a meth user, her body she would have gave out before it got to the point where it was at.
Well, that's where my research comes into play, Derek, is like, science says that the human body would shut down before it got to her lethal levels. And that's why the average overdose is 1 to 5 micrograms per gram in the liver of methamphetamine that results in death, whereas London's was 14 micrograms per gram in the liver. It's 3 to 10 times higher than the average You know,
Wow.
and even
That's a
the
lot.
medical examiner said she was the second highest that she'd ever seen in her entire career
in the
So
liver.
in the liver.
So even if she was consuming, somebody would have had to keep the party going after she passed out, basically.
Provided a large amount, just giving it to her, which is not okay either.
Let me ask you this real quick. I'm not trashing anybody like the police or anything. I think everybody is working as hard as they can. But knowing me and Ricky have talked to a lot of families, and you all have your receipts, you have done your research, you know, you're talking to podcasters and stuff. What does it feel like to know that, say it's not even because there was an issue with London, or say it's nothing like where there's negligence in your local police force, say it's just lack of manpower, but knowing that you two are working harder on this case than anybody in law enforcement, what does that do to your human spirit, knowing that, yes, this is probably being investigated by bigger ups, but even if they're trying their hardest, they got 1,000 million trillion cases to get to? What is it like knowing that, like, if you stop, it kind of stops a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. Like I mean, I'm going to be completely honest. I'll say it. I feel like we've done most of this ourselves, to the point where even OSBI has asked us to provide our evidence for them. Everything I talk about, I have screenshots or video recordings, or I have proof to show what I'm talking about. I've been very, very careful about that, to at least have something like, you know, to show that Braden said this, or Jose said this, or Braden's mom said this, Braden's dad said this. Like, I've screenshotted, I've dug, I've recorded calls from witnesses and stuff like that. And so I've gotten names, I've gotten gas station cameras. Like, we've worked really, 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 really hard at getting this stuff. And I think that what we have is very, very is reliable. It's legit. But it is kind of disheartening, to feel like her death is not as important as others. Like, because she wasn't shot or stabbed or something, like she's being pushed down the totem pole of importance. And, you know, that's really a crappy feeling as a mom.
I think I've asked this, but I kind of want to re-ask it because I still don't. Do you feel, say like, let's say she is being pushed down. Do you think it's because of who she is, or is it because they don't want to get into the amount of work that it would be to turn this from, hey, we found this girl, she passed away, it was really sad, to everybody lawyer up, we're going to go to the courthouse for a while? Like, do you think it's, why is it, in your opinion, not being taken seriously? Like, what do you feel the reason is?
I just haven't really seen a lot being done without what we've provided. So even like the search warrants and stuff, that a lot of them that they got were from stuff that we provided. And so, I don't know. How do you think?
I would like to say, like, I think that, because London was, probably a more difficult kid than like Hooker Police Department had been used to dealing with. You know, she did have some more issues.
That's a good way.
And like, because Brittany and Brittany's mom stayed on top of keeping law enforcement involved when London would do things wrong, that they got overly exhausted by London in a lot of ways. And so when this situation erupted and it was reported, they wanted to report London as a runaway, and Liz kept saying, I don't think she's a runaway. I think something is wrong. And I think that's what like really stopped an official report from being made until that Saturday, because Liz didn't want London to be reported as a runaway, because that lessens the alert, that lessens the severity of the problem of what we're looking at. And so she was trying to build proof that London wasn't a runaway, that London was in danger. And
there's also there was like some concern about maybe it being mentioned that it can't be considered a missing person, since she'd had contact with us and in order to be a missing person, you have to be missing for so long
with no contact.
And so we did run away first.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
but that ended up being out of desperation.
Yeah.
But because of the trouble that London had been in, and because of how many times, Scott had to deal with her, or Robbie Wayman, and these are all hooker police, I think that they did have an initial bias of London and whatever that stemmed from, whether just, oh, she's just another delinquent, oh, she's a problem child, oh, Robbie's saying, I can't wait till this kid finally turns 18. That insinuates I'm tired of dealing with her, and I'm ready to lock her up when she's 18. You know what I mean? It's just a washing of their hands of somebody. You know what I mean? And it's just comments like that.
I just want to point out real quick that, for all the people that sit there and say you were just letting her run around, you were letting her run the streets, you were letting her do whatever. The fact that they are irritated with this shows how much we didn't just allow her to run around. We did things. We tried to contact law enforcement. We did things to try. London had a family that loved her
very much.
We didn't let her run around. We didn't let her run the streets. I just hope that proves the point, though, that if they were like that shows people London was not unattended.
When it comes to the evidence that you have collected as a group, you two, and then the people that you're working with, so I know what it's like to. I had a guy sell me a property, and it wasn't his, and I filed a police report, and they're just like, "Yeah, that's really messed up," but we can't really do anything about it. That was recently. I have caught a man filming children in an apartment complex I lived in, called the police. The cop showed up, and he was like, "Yeah, that's really weird. It's not illegal. You're kind of in public." So what I'm learning is that to get somebody arrested for something, it's awful until you get accused of something you didn't do. I do like in this country that you are supposed to be innocent until proven guilty. But when you're on the other end of it, it's really hard to watch them just sit there and dance around. But they have to get it right. Otherwise, they can't redo it and everything. But what I've learned, that just because you can't nab somebody in criminal court, do you feel that you have enough evidence? How strong is your case if you were to essentially, not that you would, but if you would pursue a civil case where, say that subject A and B have money, and she's gone, that they did it. Do you feel confident in your case that you could win something in a civil setting where the grounds of proof are way less dramatic?
Yeah. I mean, I really don't know what more they would need besides just, I don't even want to say it because I don't want, I know that they watch these shows, by the way. Hi, Jose. Hi. I know that for a fact that they watch.
The thing about Oklahoma law, though, is Oklahoma law allows entire cases to be built on circumstantial evidence alone. And we have some really strong circumstantial evidence backed up with cell phone pinging towers from the OSBI and witness statements and things that become direct. Recordings and screenshots from the suspects in themselves. And those are direct evidence, physical evidence, right along with circumstantial evidence. When you have a case that results, you have a guy who admits to eating a bag of his own meth because he doesn't want to get in trouble for being dumb, and then he runs from the scene, and his mom then tells Brittany he told London he loved her, and she was supposed to either run and hide or stay in the truck. And then London ends up dead a week later from massive amounts of meth, well over the limits of lethal.
Well, she died that day, but wasn't found.
So you have the circumstantial evidence says that they were both in the same proximity due to pings on the cell phones. That he admitted to eating the meth. She died of the meth. You have all these things together. All he had to do, even if it wasn't his meth, is provide her with the location to use it in, and that's illegal.
Yeah.
Wow.
So even we've contacted maybe I don't want to say the people we emailed, uppers and the
legislative and those type of people.
And they replied, and they had questions that were so victim blaming and shaming that it was sickening. Like asking, why wasn't London home in bed at night? Why was London not safe at home? I mean, all these questions, there was not one question that was about the guys.
Wow.
Or it was all about what London's life was before. And I don't care if London smoked meth every single day. That does not justify whether or not like the value of her life. It's like you're telling me if little Bethany, the cheerleader, did it for the first time, she's more, her life is more valuable than London's. Like, I don't like that.
Do you feel like so you said that both of the guys were questioned? How much of an investigation has been done by like local law enforcement? Like, how have there been multiple people questioned at all, or is it just that one guy or both guys? Who's been questioned? What? Because we just have suspicious death, and I think that I think Ricky's even kind of reaching. What is her death like officially ruled as far as the state of Oklahoma is concerned? Like, is it a suspicious death? Is it like what do they rule her death as?
Yeah, the ME report says accident.
Mm-hmm. But the OSBI isn't closing it yet.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
And they're the ones in charge of the case. So, and I do like Agent Beck. He puts up with a lot of me and Rochelle. A lot of crying.
He says we drive him nuts, but he does smell what we're cooking. He says that's his favorite thing to tell us. I smell what you're cooking.
Because he can't pick side, he can't be. But I do get frustrated, but I do try to have faith that he's working his hardest to try to get solid evidence to convince the DA, who I think is going to be a little tricky to try to convince right now. So I do believe that he's doing his best to try to find what he's looking for.
We probably got to get out of here. I have 1,000 questions. We might have to have that. Do you feel like so I've known horrible things that have happened on college campuses to young women or people dying on college campuses, and like when I hear the story about how the whole thing went down, like no real police were ever called. It was just the campus police that handled these very dark situations. And as I get older, I've kind of realized that, like, again, if you're such and such university and something traumatic happens to somebody on your campus, you don't want that getting out there. You don't. So it's self-preservation. Do you feel like, and maybe not even when it comes to cases like this where it feels like local law enforcement is trying to quote unquote sweep it under the rug, do you feel like any part of that is because they feel like something like that happening in their little part of God's country makes the whole area look scary and bad publicity, and they would rather just go away? I guess what do you feel like the reason for sweeping under the rug for local law enforcement would be if they did it?
I definitely, like, the day after we found out London had died and we were told not to, I didn't even tell my daughter, my older daughter, because we were told not to say anything because they didn't want to jeopardize it. The Beaver County Sheriff, Scott Mitchell, put out a press release that talked about, we found this body, but the community is safe. There's no reason for anyone to be afraid. And we didn't even know that press was going to be putting out. OSBI, it says OSBI participated in this press, but he didn't know it was going to be put out that morning. And I definitely feel like it was put out quickly because he told us there were people calling us wondering if their children were in danger, and we didn't want them to think that. Well, they are, because there's grown men out there handing kids meth. And this isn't.
At that point, we didn't even know. We just knew that there was a 16-year-old suspicious death, and that's grounds enough to be worried about other people's kids.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, they didn't even know what it was from. So yeah, I mean, I would be kind of concerned. I don't feel like that press was needed.
And it was don't like it. Facebook. That's how we found it. We came across it on Facebook. Yeah. It was sent to us via Facebook after we were directed by the police. She couldn't even tell her other daughter that her sister was deceased.
I absolutely don't like it when law enforcement says we don't feel like there's any immediate danger to the public. It's like, how do you know?
How do you know exactly?
I think a lot of that had to do with knowing that the sheriff deputy did not do what he was supposed to do.
Right.
And then obviously the sheriff realizes whoever was under him probably didn't do their job, and that makes him look bad. I think he was just elected too.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And to answer a question that you had just asked too, I tried to get Scott Hedrick to give other jurisdictions, give jurisdiction to other counties, because there were more than one county involved in this. And I called Beaver County and I called Woodward County. Those were the two counties that those boys lived in. And they both responded to me saying, "We're sorry, but Scott has not released jurisdiction to us. He won't give us jurisdiction." And so they kept leading me to the next place to call, and it ended up being led right back to Scott Hedrick,
Right.
police chief of Hooker. And so after I called Scott to try to talk to him directly, and he sent me the voicemail and never called me back, I called Texas County Sheriff, which is over him, and I spoke directly to Texas County Sheriff, and he said, "Oh, I'm working real close with Scott on this, and I don't think it's time to rip it out from under him yet." Well, there was lots of conflict of interest, which was reason enough to have it ripped out from under him. But then on top of that, the fact that this is a suspicious missing person at that point, because that was the morning that London was found, but it had not been released to anybody yet that she had been found. So I asked the Texas County Sheriff, I asked him, I said, "I would like to know why this was never turned into an Amber Alert, because it met criteria to have become an Amber Alert." And he said, "Well, there's no suspects' names and there's no description of a vehicle." I said, "That's not true." I said, "What about, the two men's names?" And I named them both, and I described the car. He said, "I don't even know who they are, but you're working closely with Scott Hedrick on a case, so close that you don't think it's time to pull it out from under him, but you didn't even know there were two suspects in a vehicle that she was last seen in that was left abandoned on a dirt road."
Wow.
Ricky, do you need to get out of here or anything? Are you good to keep going?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Okay. I wanted to ask a lot of people, and I've seen it a lot in the chat. They said that the gentleman that you're talking about have priors. I'm listening. Talk as long as you want. I am going to turn my camera off. I'm going to clean up. I'm going to go to the restroom actually, but I can hear you. But yeah, TMI. But go ahead.
But you wanted to discuss the priors or
Yeah, just kind of. I keep seeing in the comments that they says don't forget about the priors involved. A lot of people said earlier that the guys that you're talking about don't have the cleanest records. I guess kind of go into a little bit about what they're getting at in the comments.
Said the guy was on parole.
Jose, yeah, Jose had been in prison. Him and Braden had shot and robbed a convenience store together. So Jose went to prison, and Braden was a minor at the time, so he got probation. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, he got probation. So Jose's a little salty about that too. He's definitely afraid of going back to jail. He'll say, "I'm not going to go back to prison for something he did." But Jose has a history of a domestic violence against a 15-year-old girl, I believe. I think he has already been in trouble once for giving another girl a pill that almost killed her. So there's that, and I don't know as much on Braden other than I guess he's just kind of gotten in trouble here and there. But Jose definitely has more of a legal record that you can search up.
Yeah, I'm going to backtrack a minute on the runaway thing. As I've said many times on this show, I don't know how many episodes of the show you watch, but I've said many times when we're covering missing teenagers on the show that I don't like to use the word runaway, and I said that I don't feel like the police should automatically label as a runaway. I feel like they should investigate from the worst case scenario and work towards runaway as the evidence supports runaway, but start from the worst case scenario and move forward, because I just feel like
even if they are a runaway, I think that as a minor, we have declared a certain age a minor because they do not have the capacity or the maturity to make their own decisions. So even if they are a runaway at 16 years old, we know as a community, as a country, that they are too young to be out there making their own decisions, and they should still be treated as they are not in a safe environment.
Right.
They are not safe. They are endangered, even if they are a runaway.
I agree with that completely. There's one police department here in Kansas, I won't name them, but they specifically requested that I use the term runaway somehow on the flyer because I was just saying missing, and they were getting inundated with phone calls. Why is there so many kids missing? Why is there so many kids missing? So I've kind of compromised it, and I say missing, endangered, runaway is how I put it, because I feel like
I like that. I like that you do that because it's true. You know, I know in Kansas, because I also live here in Kansas, but any runaway under the age of 14 goes through endangered and missing, you know, missing and endangered exploited children's. Detectives get involved immediately. They come flying down your street with 10 fire trucks and wailing their sirens, and every cop on duty shows up. And that's anything before 14. But once the day they turn 14, one cop shows up, gets you to write a piece of paper what they had on, and that's it. Like, they're no longer reported as endangered, missing, exploited children at that point, no matter if it's exactly the same thing.
Ricky, do you have go ahead.
I was just going to say, and that Lawless just chimed in. It really irritated me when I was requested to do that too. Ricky, super frustrating. Missing kids are endangered kids. I agree with that, Annette.
I'm glad to see Annette in here.
I was like, it's Annette.
For those of you who
I
don't know,
had quite a bit of communication with Annette towards the beginning of this case, so I'm glad to see her in here.
Yeah, her and I exchange information on cases quite frequently.
So I was going to ask you this. I told you this reminded me of the early 70s case, Suzanne Johnson out of Elkhart, Kansas. So when she went missing, there was like the 11 days that she was missing. Like, there was like a lot, like kind of like what you were talking about, how the OSBI were treating, like all when the KBI showed up to Elkhart, they weren't asking, they were kind of telling people, like, you know, Suzanne was promiscuous, as you know, she was hanging out with like older men, and again, like the family and friends felt like it was less of a you're helping us find our daughter and friend, and you're more trying to like paint this picture of this person that's kind of out of control. So my question to you is, and then my answer to that is, say everything they said about Suzanne Johnson, about her being promiscuous, say everything they say about all these people that are missing is true. It doesn't matter. Say it's true. It doesn't matter that they're still a human being. They're still a child. They still got to be found. I don't care what they do in their pastime. It doesn't matter. But my question is, you had said that there had been some frustration between local law enforcement and London leading up until her disappearance. Do you feel like the bad attitude towards her and her lifestyle amped up after she went missing and was found deceased, or did it remain the same? Like, as far as like them using somebody's like personal choice and life and everything against them when they're deceased, like, did you feel like that amped up, or did it stay the same, or what was that like?
We haven't ever heard from any of them ever again. Ever. Not even I'm sorry, I was wrong. Nothing. OSBI agent Beck we have this, London is the same agent that solved the Jillian Butler case. And so Agent Beck, he's been the only one I've talked to. And I call him weekly and leave crying voicemails.
Until he calls
me back. He knows I have these like meltdowns once a week, and he just has to call and tell me, I'm still working on it, Brittany. Like, it's not close. I'm doing my best. And sometimes that's all I really need to hear, because I feel like it has been treated like she doesn't matter.
Do you feel like, because I know it's frustrating, but do you feel like it sounds like OSBI is kind of has the reins right now as far as what's going to happen? Do you feel like that's probably for the best, since there was some contention between London and local law enforcement? Do you feel like it's better that's kind of out of that area?
I'm so thankful. I'm not even comfortable with who this is going to, who's in charge of deciding
after OSBI. Like, he has to, his job is, he's a painter. He paints a picture and then he gives it to, you know, the person who then prosecutes the case. And we are very reluctant and very nervous at that part. Like, and I think
some of those questions that were asked earlier, why wasn't London at home, came from that area. And so that was really concerning for us. Very concerning for us that's where that mindset is at.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we think that Beck also understands that he has to he wants to have the most solid evidence that he can, and combined with the circumstantial evidence, because he knows that he's got to convince some pretty tough people. Like,
we're trying to
be very nice right now because we're really angry and like crying lava tears at some of the responses we've got from higher ups in that area. So we're trying to be very careful. I mean, because for your show too, though. Like,
yeah,
we don't.
That's why we're a little more
careful on your show. Joe's. When we talk on Joe's show, he's like, "No, we're about to discuss this." Like, so definitely, we go into that letter on his show. So that letter is exposed on his show. If you'd like to see that letter,
yeah. And
I will have to do that.
That whole email is on there.
Yeah.
Wow, I'll have to check that out.
Yeah, you and her full.
That's one of the snippets that he took from the 3.5 hour segment and turned into its own, is just the correspondence between us and that person. So
cool.
I think it's kind of concerned a lot of people.
Very much so.
Do you feel like you have from like, because when this stuff happens, you're gonna have people reaching out to you from all over the country, probably, especially like the more publications you do. Kind of a dark question, but I'm just gonna ask it because it's in my heart. Do you feel like there's a true crime obsession in this country, and in order for there to be a true crime obsession, it has to eat? And in order for the true crime to grow and continue, and for us to have new stories and new podcasts, I'm just gonna ask a dark question. Is there any part of you that feels like London's just like a prop at this? Because like, that's why when we first started the show, before we hit record or hit go live, I've covered a lot of cases, and I covered one recently, and I got to the point where I would be in public in this area and people would walk up and want to shake my, and it just felt very gross. I felt very, I'm somebody who's been, trying to, do podcasting. I'm in a band. I do all kinds of stuff that's very, hey, look at me, and I am human, and I'm guilty of wanting, like appreciation for my talents. And when it finally happened that I was quote unquote, like people could see me in public and be like, hey, that's that guy. It just felt really gross that it came at the cost of two women that should not be dead. They should be here. The whole thing was. So how do you, or do you even think of it as like the more shows you go on, the more things that you do, that it's almost like she is almost like a sacrifice to the true crime podcast gods? You know what I mean? At what point are these real people? And get rid of the creepy music while you tell the scary parts. And again, I love true crime, but I felt really gross when I became known for true crime.
I think that's kind of like, we've been very careful about whose show we went on. There's one, Rock Chalk. I don't like London's a prop. Jillian and Butler, that's a prop for her. She's clickbait. She, like, in this conversation we would be having, she would take everything negative that I've said, or take anything I've said and twist it around to make it something that it's not. And so I kind of already learned from there, like, that I have to be really careful who's really genuinely cares about London's justice and who's doing it just to get viewers.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I was telling you before the show started. I'm not gonna say that lady's name. I learned the hard way. She was saying that me, a guy I produce a show for, she was saying a lot of people. I was in Elkhart. She was saying me and a lot of people were God's misfits daily on her show for weeks, while auto playing my live streams that I did covering the case, and I had to basically have YouTube strike her channel 3 times to get her to leave me alone. Where YouTube was like, "We're going to delete your channel," and she said sorry to me, and I forgave her, and she still has her channel. But that's kind of what I'm talking about. And I don't hate that chick. I don't think she can help herself. I think that's just who she is. And whatever. But
she purposely digs for dirt that doesn't exist, though, and
I think that's where she crossed the line. Was my brother?
Yeah,
this is the thing. Like but that's the thing. Like a lot of people, it looks like support when you look up, but the closer the support umbrella gets, it's vultures, and they just want your. Again, there's 32 people here watching here. Just me as a person who's not a complete idiot. Mathematically, there have to be some people who are just lurching on the sadness that is drenching out of this rag we're squeezing. You know, I guess I just wanted to know, like, what do you feel about? And you kind of answered it, but like that is a thing where, oh wow, people are paying attention to this thing, but like we're talking about your daughter's lifeless body here. Like, oh my gosh, you know, like I have 2 children. If either of them died and it was under suspicious circumstances, I'm punching the first podcaster that comes to my door in my inbox. You're getting a knuckle sandwich right away. How dare you try to turn my child's death into an effing story? You know what I mean? But that's just kind of how I feel, you know, and that's kind of why I didn't know a lot about this case, because I started feeling really weird about covering this kind of stuff.
I think I didn't cover it right away. I think whenever I started really realizing that it was going to take the support of the community, the community has done more to help London than anybody. Like the supporters, the sharers, the ones that understand and know me and my family and know London was a great girl. Like they're the ones that have kept it going. But I think that, I don't know I think that
we were kind of shut down from the beginning of doing like actual news stories, like and
like spreading justice is where we decided that we really needed. When we realized London wasn't where this wasn't heading the way that we needed, we realized we needed to spread the word, and just kind of get her story out there, because it is the community that has helped really make a lot of changes so far and supported us behind this.
Yeah, and it's been building relationships with the ones of you guys that we have agreed to come and talk to. Like, you know, like I was saying earlier, you know, I've been communicating with Ricky almost a year now. You know, he put out the poster for my son a year ago. And so, you know, I've known him and I've watched some of his stuff, and I've gotten so much good feedback from the community about who you guys are. And then Joe reaching out and like researching him and realizing that he's not a clickbaiter, you know, and you guys aren't clickbaiters. Like you guys are looking for factual information, and you're not taking a story and twisting it and digging for whatever you want to find out of it to get more views. Like it was a lot of work on our part to, you know, to become, you know, trusting of certain channels to put this out to.
And I know, like, it was hard for me, like the big news channels. Like, I know it's hard for me, like, why I was healing, because I know they're going to try to tear me and my family apart and London apart. And, you know, just the negative, the people with the comments. I wasn't quite prepared for that at first. But, you know, for London, I'm going to try to get some tough skin and just know that the people that know me and they know London and my family, they know the truth, and that she was a beautiful girl, and we loved her very much. And so I'm going to do what I need to do. And even if that makes me putting my life out there and being vulnerable, I'm going to do it for her. I'm going to be her voice.
Well, I just want to say, you know, I talked a lot. Usually when we don't usually do interviews on this podcast, we just usually read flyers, and Ricky talks the whole show and I just push buttons. Usually when we have a guest, I'll usually do a lot of the talking, but we both want to thank you for being here. And like, the main thing I want to say is like, you know, we're down to help as much as possible as far as getting it out to our audience and letting anybody that pays attention to Ricky Tabruggi know that, you know, you have a story that needs to be told. But like, to me, I just can't help feeling like awful that like we don't have a time machine, you know, like this is something that sucks. So I think that I do like that you have like the fight in you. And we've talked to a lot of family members that are in the throes of trying to find justice for your loved one. I will tell you this too, a lot of cases that me and Ricky have covered over the years, we would sit there and read the flyer every week, and we would be super positive on the air and be like, you know, if you've seen it, Alexander Perez, Ricky, every week we were like, you know, if you've seen Alexander Perez, you call the number, blah blah blah. And we were very positive for years on the air, very positive, but off the air, we were very worried that maybe Alexander Perez wasn't going to come home, and we were kind of worried that maybe, you know, we hadn't heard zip from the police. Nobody had said anything. It was literally years of just silence, and then all of a sudden, you hear of an arrest, and you hear they have excavators, and it's all horrible things. If Alexander Perez is a loved one, you're like, holy crap, they're getting an excavator. But when you don't know where your loved one is for that long, finding out about their death is actually kind of a good thing, because you've been in this state of anxiety of not knowing what their fate was. And it was years later, and it reminded me that, like, the police, and it's smart. It's frustrating as hell, and I hate how the police work at a glacial pace, and they don't give you updates. But that's the way they should do it. Like I said, they have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that this person committed a crime. If they screw that up, the person can walk away forever, you know, and have done something horrible. But we have seen enough cases that years go by, and then boom, you just see on Facebook or on a newspaper, big movement in this case. So, like, I just want to say thanks for coming on the show, and have faith that keep telling your story, keep doing your due diligence, keep doing your digging, keep being the little detective ladies that you are. Congratulations, you're doing it. You're doing exactly what cops do, and that's awesome. And wait for your phone call. I think that if you try your best, and you refuse to say no, and you refuse to, you know, live and let die, I think that you will get your phone call one of these days. And again, I want you to know that, like, it won't bring London back, but I think that you have a story that has there's a lot of fishy things going on. And if I was anywhere related to London, I would not stop until I heard to.
And we want to give a shout out real quick, from one mama heart to another, while you're talking about not knowing where their child is. I was fortunate enough to, you know, not have to wait very long to find London's body, but my mama friend Jamie, her son Jeremiah has been missing, and but there is a $12,000 reward. Rochelle has a little bit more information here, but they're still looking for him, and I can't even imagine, you know,
almost 300 days he's been missing. I sent the information to Ricky too on it. They lived here in Ponca City, where Brittany lives. And that's one thing that London Story has opened up, is it's brought us really close to other people that are going through similar situations.
Yeah.
And he's got the flyer here for for Jeremiah.
And there is $12,000 reward.
Yeah, the family's raised that on their own, and Jamie hasn't lost one tiny piece of faith in this. Like,
she's so positive.
It's crazy. Like, she is such a positive light. I mean, she, even in the tragedy of her losing her own son and her son being missing, she is still putting London's story out there for us. Like, she's just such a beautiful woman. Like,
so we're doing the same for her.
And it's just it's a very sad situation, because he wasn't even from here. He'd only been here for a short time before he went missing from here. So
yeah, he's from Kansas City.
You know, anytime you guys want to come back on the show with any kind of anytime you guys want to come back on the show with any kind of updates or anything, let me know, and we'll get you guys back on.
Oh yeah, we have more.
Okay.
Well, we say we have 5 minutes. Like, I know you have more. Like, if you had to pick, like, what is the one missing piece that you feel like needs to be on this video for the person that's watching it, and they're like, don't end yet, I got 5 more minutes of, you know, what is the last piece that you feel like it would tie this visit together before you guys come back again another time?
I would definitely like to go over London's missing phone and her Hogwarts backpack, which was brought in a week later by Jose's mom. Supposedly it was found in her 4-door Toyota car. Brayden says they looked for it and they couldn't find it, but I'm sorry, but a 16-year-old girl is not about to leave without her phone. and you're telling me you couldn't find a Hogwarts backpack in a black car?
It's red.
It's red. Yeah. And so I'm curious why that was like that. So there's also two stories. Braden says that they were at his dad's, and Jose said they went to Guyman. So there's two different stories there. So either somebody went back and got that backpack and her phone, or it was never left Braden's dad's. So there's that. And then there's the fact of her clothes laying. So London's clothes and her shoes were by the road, laying by the road.
Approximately 25 to 30 feet from where her body was found.
Wow. So when you say clothes, like all of her clothes, or
everything but her undergarments?
Yeah.
So now was that I know, like in like hypothermia, when you're freezing, was it a hypothermic? It's like where she felt hot, maybe, and she was trying to.
Yeah, but there's just something weird about the footprints that add up to it, and the grass, and where she was found. Like, it's just, why did she turn around? Like, it's just
because the clothes didn't come from behind her where she walked from. Which, with paradoxical undressing, she would have been stripping layers and dropping clothes as she's walking, right? And the clothes were past where her body was found, not the direction she came from. And they're all in a pile. And then across the road, her shoes are sitting by the only set of footprints. Not even full footprints, but just toe prints. And then there's no prints. And then her body is found 25 feet over.
It looked like she was dragged through the grass, not crawled.
Yeah, the grass was physically laid down and torn up, like where her body was found.
And then the next day, the part where her stuff was, they regraded the road.
The county, somebody.
Let me ask you this. So what was that? You said parallaxing. What was that called?
Paradoxical undressing.
Paradoxical undressing.
What is, you're educating me. What is the how much sentience does a person have when they're doing that act? Like how in control is a person whenever they're, because that's like an involuntary, like, confusion thing, right? Like they're undressing because there's something wrong, basically.
Yeah, so that's when their bodies start shutting down. Like, it's getting overheated. She had cardiac arrest, so her body was getting overheated. And I think it does the lack of, like, maybe like oxygen, like what kind of makes you.
You know, they like to say that the first thing during paradoxical undressing that a person removes is your shoes. And if that's the truth, her shoes were located closer to her than her clothes were. So you don't take your, that means she would have took her shoes off and then walked even further barefoot. There was no footprints to prove that part, but there were footprints for everything else.
So if she was not of sound mind, as far as like her faculties not being, like, almost like being too drunk where she can't walk, would that have been caused by the massive amount of chemical in her body, or would that have been caused by the temperature, or would that have been caused by I guess what would have caused her to be in that state? Like, was it the temperature, or was it the, like, overdose? What was causing her body to overheat?
Yeah, it was the meth that caused it, because in that area, which would have been very close to where you live, the high that day was like 81.
It was cloudy.
And cloudy, and it just there was just a tornado in Beaver County on the night of the 6th.
The night before.
Yeah, and so it wasn't super hot outside, which had us a little bit confused, but that amount of methamphetamine it makes your heart overwork, which raises your body temperature. The research that we've done shows that the body can get up to like 110 degrees in those instances of hyperthermia from methamphetamine toxicity.
Wow.
So
we kind of, but you say she was, like, there was no stumbling in these footprints, not even a little bit.
Mm-mm.
So that was concerning. And the shoe that she was wearing was a Nike Air Force One. And most common shoe for a teenager, boys and girls, and they're around the same size. So I can't help but think that that's maybe it was even him walking to go find her.
There's no proof. They didn't do casting of the shoe prints, so there's no proof as to whose shoe prints those were. They just knew that the bottom of the shoe was an Air Force One, and that's the shoe that she had on. So it must have been hers, right? Like, and the but we don't have any proof of what kind of shoe either anybody else was wearing.
Yeah.
In the Suzanne Johnson case, they had found on the 11th day, they had found her body out in the country. And by the time KBI got there, they had plenty of shoe prints to cast from every Tom, Dick, and Harry that was in town that wanted to come out.
Yeah.
Like, you know, and again, you ask yourself, was this on purpose? Did some evil person say, everybody come in here and do a square dance on the crime scene? Or was it just like, this is a small town, they have no idea what they're doing when it comes to a homicide?
Right.
Yeah. I guess, I mean, the medical team was there, medical examiner team was there, but I don't know. I still have some questions about how well this was done, because I really don't think it was taken serious until I got Beck on the phone and he
realized that he hadn't been given all the information.
Yeah, he hadn't been given all the information. I was like, Beck, give me 1 hour to sit down with you and show you what I have. And I think he listened.
Yeah.
I really think they were going to write it off pretty quick before that.
Yeah. Well, this has been pretty riveting. Everybody, Joe Schmo is over there in the comments. Me and Ricky watched his initial video that he did on London. Ricky's seen a few more videos. I've been drastically busy. My job's been horrible lately. I've been so busy, but I am gonna check out your because again, like I kind of wanted to learn it from you, you know, because I've had a lot of people text me, but a lot of the things that people text me, like, and it's not our mutual friend that you, Felicia, like she's been, everything she has typed to me, you all have backed up what she has typed to me. Yeah. But there's been like random people, like you hear this, you hear that. And one thing is like, it's just, I don't know, like, so, for some reason, human beings are just in like that game Telephone. Like we all have to add just a piece of just juiciness that makes it make. So I would rather hear it from you, Ricky. Do you want to? Is there? Go ahead.
I was gonna say I've heard some terrible rumors about what had happened, and they're not true. But I'm just like, who comes up with this stuff?
Yeah, I think it's just human nature to just. I think we all think we're writers. Ricky, do you have any questions before you get out of here, man? Or
no, I think you pretty much covered it all. I was hoping to cover at least one flare tonight, but that's okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah, we can talk.
No, you're
about
fine.
this.
You're fine. No worries. I'd rather devote the whole show to London if possible. But yeah, there's a 14-year-old girl missing here in town that I was wanting to share a flare.
We'll just throw it up there real quick, and you can cover it. And then we can say goodbye after that. It just takes 30 seconds.
It's this young lady right here, Kmu Live. She's missing from here in town. She's 14, 5'3", 140 pounds. Her hair is lost, none to be bleached blonde, hazel eyes. I believe she might still be here in Salina. She might be in McPherson, south of here. If you have any information on her case, the phone number is 785-826-7210, KBI 785-296-4017. I wanted to get her on there because I know her mom. Her mom used to be one of my foster daughters. So I wanted to make sure I got her on here. So, because I have a connection to the family. I've known her mom since she was 16. So,
yeah.
And see, this is kind of where, for me, I start to get jaded because, like, I've been doing this show. I had Ricky on my podcast in 2020, and we decided to start. It's his show. I just push buttons for him. But we usually cover 24, 25, 26 cases a week.
Yeah.
And it doesn't take long for you just to get like sad, just to be like you all have been going through this for a while. And with London's case, it was the worst case scenario. Like you're just trying to get some answers now, but it was the worst case scenario as far as what could happen. And you know, that's what's a brand new flyer Ricky made. He knows her mom, and it's just a cycle. It's just a cycle that's enough to make you sad, you know. But
this is the only time when I get in this mode of finding justice for London. Is the only time I don't cry. It's the only time I feel strong, and it gives me a purpose. Other than that, it gives me.
There's so many of these flyers. Like, we need people that feel like they have a purpose in this. You know, it's like I think I was telling Ricky, I lost my son's 9 now, but I lost him when he was 4 for about 5 minutes at a very busy playground. And I remember running up to just strangers, be like, "Have you seen my son? Have you seen my son?" And they were strangers, and they were just looking at me like, maybe. I have no idea. And I was just felt so hope. I was just like, and then he was fine. He just took off and got mixed up. But like for 4 minutes, like I couldn't imagine going longer than 4 minutes. So anybody that did 5 days, I take my hat off for you. I think you're a very brave lady. I think you're both doing God's work, and I think that you should keep going. And I think that London's story is worth telling, and I think that there's some lessons that need to be learned, and maybe some legal lessons for some people. Some legal repercussions for you don't do certain things to certain people. Well, it's up to you. If you want me to pull you down, I can. But real quick, Ricky usually ends the show with a prayer. If you all want to stick around for Ricky's prayer, real quick, and we can get out of here. All right, go ahead, Rick, and then we appreciate you both being on the show. Ricky will pray, and then we'll get out of here.
Heavenly Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight so we could go over London's case, and let's do what we can to help Brittany get answers for London. London deserves that. Brittany deserves that. Rochelle deserves that. Just need the right people with the right, right ears, the right heart, do the right thing, step up, speak up, call in what you know, let Brittany know, let Rochelle know. Let's do what we can to help London. And just want to say thank you again for everybody for joining us tonight. Until we see you all again next week, everybody stay safe, stay healthy. God bless, and have a good night.
Amen.
Bye.